Okay, so good day. So I am Elizabeth Joy Serrano Quijano. So I'll be handling the fundamentals of community broadcasting. So I'll be introducing myself. And yes, you can call me Ma'am Joy. I graduated Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication at Holy Cross of Davao College. Finished my master's degree at the University of Mindanao, and I'm continuing my Doctor of Philosophy in Southeastern Philippines, University of Southeastern Philippines. So to get you started in this subject, fundamentals of community broadcasting. That's why in your recent activity, I let you define. I ask you to define what is community, what is development, because this is your course, no, Bachelor of Science in Development Communication. So you really need to define it well, memorize it by heart, no, to kailangan kabalo jud mo unsa ang development communication. It's not developmental communication, it's development communication. So you should know how to define it, and define it from your heart, so that if you will be asked, you know already what is development communication. So that is very basic. Okay, so development communication is also related to communication courses, BA communication, BA mass communication. But development communication is special because it reaches out to the communities and help the people, especially the marginalized sectors, to understand their rights, to empower the marginalized sectors, the farmers, the women, the children, the indigenous people, cultural communities, and a lot of marginalized sectors or other groups, people's groups that you can think of. Okay, so special kayo ang development communication kay naagyud sa iyaha ang pagtabang labi na sa mga kabus. So one of the example of what development communicators do is that ginasimplify nila ang mga research, ang mga communication materials para masabtan sa mga mag-uuma, sa mga yanong tao nga dili makasabot because they were not given a chance no nga maka-study. So for example na ay ang agriculture, ang IATES na sila research on how to improve crop production. So, ang ginahimo sa development communicator is that to translate it na masabtan siya sa mga farmer. So, mahimo tabang nag-mediate, nagpatunga between the science and the people, between we communicate facts and useful materials ato na siyang i-deliver to the people para masabtan nila o magamit nila for development, para na ay progress ang ato ang community. So this is a course nga kailangan na yung kay empathy, especially to the people nga walay mga access. Empathy to people nga walay access sa ila to information. So mana siya jud ang inyong dapat masabtan why you took up development communication. So I'll be discussing to you the fundamentals of community broadcasting. So first ato sa ang i-learn ang history of community broadcasting. So, ang community broadcasting manggod, since daghan kayo tag mga rural, no? Rural, when you say rural, it is bukid-bukid. When you say urban, the city. So, rural. Kasagaran manggod na media or mass media na ginagamit sa rural is radio. So, dito yun na nagikan ang community broadcasting sa community radio. Okay. So, niadtong 1888, in 1888, Heinrich Hertz detects and produces radio waves. So, sa Hertz. So, kadungog mo anang sa radyo nga, Hertz, megahertz. So, si Heinrich Hertz ang nakadiscover sa radio waves in 1888. And in 1894, Guglielmo Marconi builds his first radio equipment, a device that will ring a bell 30 feet away. From 30 feet away. So isa kani sila si Hertz, si Marconi, si Fessenden. So they were the pioneers of radio broadcasting. So asa man ni sila nagsugod? Of course from their little community. So kani sila ng mga pioneers ang mga nagsugod why we now have our radio broadcasting. So si Hertz, Marconi, and Fessenden. So I'd suggest that you'll make a profound research about these people, these pioneers, so that will be not wasting too much time no kung sutaon pa kung kinsa yun sila. But at least you will be familiarized of who are these people are and what are their contributions to the community broadcasting, radio broadcasting. Okay, so next is okay. So community radio broadcasting. Ano siya to ang i-discuss as of this moment. Community radio broadcasting. Okay, as what I've said, ang radio mao siya ang pinaka-common, pinaka-accessible nga mass media labi na sa rural community. Okay, so and dali po siya kay dili man tanan sa rural makabasa, but they can listen to radio. Kumingon tag accessible man pod ang newspaper or print materials. Yes, accessible, but pinaka-accessible gyud ang radio. Ngano man kay makadungog man except lang sa mga na disability. But pinaka-accessible ang radio because barato siya and ang uban battery lang, di ba? So if we really want to reach out to the rural community, mga tao nga naa sa kinasuksukang part sa ato ang community. So we employ the benefits of using the radio, ang mass media. So, unsa man yung mass media gina-mention ni ma'am? Mass media, mao na siya ang technology that we use to communicate to a large number of people. For example, the television, the radio, and the print media. So, mao na silang ginatawag na tri-media. But we also now have the online media, the internet communication. So, ika-fourth na siya. And there are other nuances of communication. But as to the basic nga mass media, nga technology na atong ginagamit, mao na siya ang TV, radio, and print. So pinaka-accessible, since we are now discussing fundamentals of community broadcasting and broadcasting, mao na siya ang radio community broadcasting. Okay, so public service broadcasting, it is defined as statutory entity controlled by a public body such as NTC and the MTRCB. So, public service broadcasting, mao na siya mga radio or mga media outlets na kinamanage sa ato ang gobyerno. So, kung na ay mga private like ABS-CBN, GMA, TV5, naapod tayo mga state-owned broadcast media. Okay, so public service broadcasting is owned by the state or a statutory entity. Statutory meaning pag-aari siya ng state o ng gobyerno, ng pamahalaan. The next is public service broadcasting operates to provide information, education, and entertainment. So in communication class, naatay purposes, no? Especially in media. Naatay purposes, why do we communicate ideas? Why do we communicate information? First is to inform the people. Okay, so ano na siya kanang self-knowledge na siya, no? Kung saan nang inform. Ipahibalo kung naipagyo, ipahibalo kung naimaabotay nga mga sakuna. So that information is very powerful and useful. It's a very useful tool for us to help people. So inform. Next is educate. So how do we educate people? Mutuo sila nga magpa-vaccine, dili mutuo sa fake news. How do we educate people? Kinahanglan mo tuo sila sa science, nga di sila magtuo sa mga pamahiin. So ato silang i-educate. For example, class ha, for example, first menstruation sa babae, kailangan ipahid niya ang blood. Excuse me, blood sa iyang nawong. So that is very kana bang backward, no? Nga ginatuuhan gyapon sa mga daghang Pilipino. So that's why there is a need for us to educate other people. There is a need for us to educate our fellow Filipinos nga di sila mutuan ng mga totoo nga labi na kung unhygienic, kunya dili makaayo para sa ilaha and hugaw siya. So kailangan nato i-educate. So inform, educate, entertain. Mao na siya to pinakaganahan, entertainment. So dagan kayo taog ma-share about entertainment, no, labi na kanang mga vice ganda, labi na pag kanang ganing sa ba, ilang vice ganda. Ano mga lingaw-lingaw, puro gusto ta makatawa because Filipinos based on study are really known to be happy people, di ba? Gusto jud ta kanang makatawa ta, malingaw ta. So mo na siya po ng purpose sa media is to entertain. Dili lang malingaw, a lot of emotions na pwede tayo makuha sa TV or sa radio. Nung ka na ganing uban nga maminaw lang sa radyo, magbasa lang og ka ng libro, hilak. No, ano dayon ta madala. And that is the purpose of the media is to entertain us and mapagawas nato atong different emotions because of the media. And then last is to influence. Kani siya ang pinaka-importante jud is to influence. Nganuman, influence nato ang mga kapwa nato Pilipino nga iboto ang tama, nga mo decide kung unsa kinsa ang ato ang pilion nga mga tama nga leader. I-influence nato sila to vote who is right, to vote for who is right, and i-influence sila sa media to decide unsa nga product ang ilang paliton, unsa nga action ang ilang dapat buhaton, no? So ano siya example, no, kanang sa election jud to influence. Kung kinsa gani nang mas gina prefer sa media nga ibalita, mao gini siya kasagaran ang mudaog, minsa ang daghag exposure. So man na siya, so that is why media is a very powerful thing. And most of it ma-abuse gid siya, and again there are a lot of corruptions. So for example of public service broadcasting, sa ako nang gikaingon that public service broadcasting is a statutory entity. So usa na siya kabutang nga gi-own sa government. Usa ka broadcasting nga gi-own sa government, statutory entity. So inyo na i-search ha unsa nang entity, hindi na nako siya i-describe pa. So statutory entity controlled by a public body such as the NTC or the ICT na din na siya karon, Department of Information Communications Technology. So class like po day ang communication o communications, ha, pwede na mamali. Mawag po ni siya sa basic nga dapat ninyo may baluan. Dili siya developmental communication, dili po siya development communications. Ang communication, mao na siya ang pag-process sama sa ginabuhat nako karon. It is a process. So, naga-share og information, na feedback, na receiver, na sender, na message, na barrier. So, na feedback, mao na siya ang communication. So, it is the process of sharing information or sharing knowledge. Pag mingon tag communications, na siya mo na siya ang technology. Okay? Radio communications, media communications, mo na siya ang kanang mga satellite, na electronics, signals, mo na siya pasabot sa communications. So dili na siya ingon nga plural lang na siya sa communication kay daghan nga types of communication. So mao na siya ang kalahian sa communication o communications. So communication is the process, communications technology ang pasabotan niya. Okay, kuha. Okay, I assume na nakuha. So, in public service broadcasting, ang example is ang PTB4. Okay, so PTB4 is a channel or a broadcasting group owned by the government. So, dili kita maka-expect na nga ang PTB4 mo balita og against sa gobyerno because it is government owned. And also, we have the PBS or the Philippine Broadcasting Service. Paglilingkod, panghimpapawid ng Pilipinas. Okay. So, PBS. The next, okay, ni pinaka-common, the commercial or private broadcasting. Ano ni siya? ABS, CBN, GMA, TV5, sa pa ba? Mala na siya, 3 giants. Commercial or private broadcasting. Ang commercial or private broadcasting provides programs designed primarily for profit. So, pangwarta yun siya. Okay? And from advertising. So, nagapangwarta ni sila ang ABS-CBN and GMA from their advertising revenues and owned and controlled by private individuals or commercial enterprises. Mo na siyang commercial or private broadcasting. So, kaatbang siya ni public service broadcasting. So, di ba, dili siya balance, no, kay ang PTB4, kaya sabi nag-watch sa PTB4. Who watches PTB4? So, mas daga nag-watch sa GMA or sa ABS-CBN because private siya, and mao jud ang iyang purpose is i-attract jud niya ang masa. I-attract jud niya ang daghang audience. Unlike sa PTB4 nga government, ang comments lang is, di ba, ang PTB4, if you look at the content of their broadcasting broadcast programs, boring, even the quality, no, murag blurry ang ilang screen. So, dili po kay siya dili siya makuha labi na sa mga bukid-bukid na area. So man siya problem with government owned kay wala kayo siya quality, unlike sa GMA and ABS-CBN, major commercial nga broadcasting, commercial. So already po siyang problema if it's a commercial or private broadcasting. The problem is pwede jud siyang magamit, no, sa ilahang agenda na pagpangwarta. Kaya dili man siya, jud na siya is profit. It's one of the results of capitalism. Okay, so lahat na pud na issue ang capitalism. Okay, so community broadcasting. Okay, ato nang i-define si community broadcasting. Community broadcasting is a non-profit service that is owned and managed by a particular community, usually through a trust, foundation, or association. It aims to serve and benefit a community. Okay, so I assume by now that you already know what is a community. So, it's a group of people, mao to yung mga gid pang-define. So, community is nagyoy tao. Hindi siya matawag na community kung walay tao, di ba? So, community broadcasting is a non-profit service owned and managed by a foundation or association and in a community. Kani siya dapat ang goal gyud sa communication. For example, here in Davao del Sur, nasa mga gagmay lang na radio stations, pero private owned man gihapon. So wala siya dili gihapon siya ma-consider na community broadcasting nga in its sense, no, kay for profit man gihapon ang ilahang mga ginapangwarta, ang ilang mga source of income is ang mga politiko, mga sponsors ng mga local shops, mga local stores. So, dili gyapon siya matawag na community broadcasting. So, in its sense, ang community broadcasting must be non-profit and nag-serve yun siya for the benefit of the community or of the people. Ano siya community broadcasting? For example, usa ka grupo, usa ka kooperatiba. nagtukod sila og radio station ani nga community sa bukid, and dapat dili siya naga-aim og profit, no? Kanang ingunan na dapat so lisod jud kaayo ni siya. Lisod jud kaayo nga mag-operate ang usa ka butang nga wala ka ga income. So basically dili jud ma-apply ang imong heart sa pag-serve sa people, no? Kana bang wala ka naga aim og pangwarta.